So, Mr. Crupper, we meet again. It strikes me, Mr. Crupper, that you and we're not so very different, you and I. How can this be, you might ask? Perhaps with no small degree of horror. But it's true, Mr. Crupper. You and I, Mr. Crupper, are men. Men of a very special and distinctive kind, Mr. Crupper. Mr. Crupper, we are men who define ourselves not in terms of crass appeal to the masses, nor public approval, nor fleshly lusts or conquests, sexual or otherwise. No, Mr. Crupper, we are men who define ourselves largely in terms of the books we have read. So, Mr. Crupper, it strikes me that to understand the difference between you and me, we must first understand the difference between the books you read and the books that I read. So, there's only so long I can keep that up. Yeah, Mr. Crupper, okay, let me just reiterate a comment that I made on your on one of your videos. Yes, I truly appreciate, there are things I truly appreciate about you. One of them is, I really appreciate that you're not like these religious whack jobs who delete everybody's comments or don't allow us to post video responses and things like that. I mean, that's really great. So, for every, 10,000 hours you spend battling somebody, you've got to, say every once in a while something you appreciate about them. So, this is something I do appreciate about you, Mr. Crupper. So, Mr. Crupper, I want you to know, I took very seriously your charge that, we haven't read Ayn Rand to the same degree that we're accusing you of not having read Immanuel Kant. So, I went out, your second reference that you gave in your Kant lecture was to this book, For the New Intellectual. I went out and actually bought this book. The guy who rang me up kind of laughed in my face, so it was a bit of an embarrassing experience. But I went out and I got this book, okay, and I took your charge seriously, right? And I thought it would be an interesting exercise, right, to compare the books that you read which attack Kant with the books that I read which attack Kant, okay? I am not a Randian, ironic considering my name. I'm not a Randian, but it would be fair to characterize me as being a Rortyian, okay, Richard Rorty. I'll include a link to a video by the SHAN, which is a good introductory video to Richard Rorty. But I've read a lot of Rorty's books, right? This is one of my favorites, Philosophy in the Mirror of Nature, okay? Now, this book is, from front cover to back cover, a sustained, devastating attack on the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. So I thought it would be an interesting exercise just to compare these two books, and see really what the difference is. I found this experience actually quite surprising, okay? Now, in both of these books, okay, you'll find that the philosophers make very florid, outrageous statements about Immanuel Kant, okay? It's not like the difference between these two books is one of them is kind of polite towards Kant and one of them is kind of fiery towards Kant. That's not the difference at all. Let me demonstrate, okay? Let me just read first from the New Intellectual, right? The Middle Ages was a period ruled by the witch doctor in a firm, if mutually jealous alliance with Attila. The witch doctors controlled every aspect of human life and thought, right? And then we'll say, Kant gave metaphysical expression to the psychoepistemology of Attila and the witch doctor, and to their primordial existential relationship. Okay, so basically she's comparing Immanuel Kant, the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, to a medieval, middle-aged witch doctor. Okay, now, flash forward to Richard Rorty here, okay? Let me just read you this one. This is from Rorty's summation of what his book is about, all right? Rorty expresses the hope that it may be that the image of the philosopher which Kant offered is about to go the way of the medieval image of the priest. So in other words, both of these philosophers, both of them compare Immanuel Kant to witch doctors in the Middle Ages, right? So the difference is not we have to grant these guys their grain of salt, right? They're trying to sell books here. It's kind of like, how our YouTube videos where nothing's happening, there's no sparks, or there's no battles going on, they don't get any viewers. People are only excited when you're just really ripping into somebody, right? I mean, honestly. So that's what they're doing here, okay? They're just like really ripping into Kant as you know, with all fours, basically, right? To sell books, to make their books more interesting to read, okay? So that's not the difference. What is the difference between these two books, okay? Here's the difference, right? Okay, this book says a whole bunch of really outrageous things about Immanuel Kant, right? And you won't find a single reference in here to anywhere in Immanuel Kant, right? Now, I know we've complained about this before, but, you know, that's really the difference. Okay, this one, you see at the bottom of like almost every page, it gives citations to, you know, he'll say some outrageous thing about Immanuel Kant, and then he'll give a link back into the works of Immanuel Kant, which say where you can find that from. Now, why is this, okay? Here's the thing, okay? The reason is because, you know, we don't like being lied to about Immanuel Kant, right? So this is just basically a huge innovation by, you know, intellectuals, is that they cited their sources. And so if you read some outrageous thing about Immanuel Kant here, you can actually go back to the very spot that Richard Rorty is criticizing and see whether it makes sense or not. You can make up your own mind, right? Here it's like, you know, there's nothing I can do with this. It's a non-starter, right? I read an outrageous statement. If I don't agree with it, where do I go? I mean, Critique of Pure Reason is a 1,000-page book. I mean, Kant wrote all kinds of stuff, right?